No one really prepares you for this part, not the big changes. Those get attention. New jobs, new phases, clear turning points. No, I'm talking about the quieter ones, the kind you notice slowly, almost accidentally. You realize someone you love isn't quite who they used to be. Not better, not worse, just different. And the strange thing is, you don't feel angry about it. You don't feel betrayed. You just feel slightly out of step, like you missed a cue somewhere along the way. If that feeling sounds familiar, you're probably not imagining it. People change. We all know that, in theory, but knowing it intellectually doesn't make it easier when it's happening right in front of you, especially when the change isn't dramatic, when it's a shift in priorities, in energy, in what they seem to need from you. What makes this difficult is that no one tells you that someone else's change quietly reshapes your role without a conversation, without permission. One day you just realize the way you show up no longer fits as well as it used to. And that can be unsettling because your sense of self is tied, in part, to who you are to the people you love, who you've been reliable for, who you've supported, who you've understood almost automatically. When that dynamic shifts, it's not just the relationship that feels different. You do too. This happens in marriages, in friendships, with children especially. You look up and realize they're no longer where they were when you last checked. They're moving in directions you don't fully understand yet. And you're left holding the quiet question: what does this ask of me now? That's not a question with an obvious answer because you don't want to cling to who they are, but you also don't want to lose who you've been. So you hover in between, trying to stay present without forcing familiarity, trying to remain connected without pretending that nothing has changed. There's a subtle grief in that space, not grief for loss, but grief for certainty, for knowing how to show up without thinking. And yet, there's also this spot where something honest lives, and love that adapts without attention becomes distant. So you slow down, you listen differently, you stop assuming you know what's needed. That can feel awkward, even lonely, because it means letting go of some confidence you used to have in the relationship. But it also means making room for who they are becoming, not who you remember. And that's harder than it sounds because it asks you to change too, quietly and without applause. It asks you to loosen your grip on old roles: the fixer, the guide, the steady one. Not abandon them, just hold them more lightly. This isn't about growing apart, it's about growing unfamiliar. And unfamiliarity isn't failure, it's an invitation to pay attention again, to choose presence instead of assumption, curiosity instead of memory. That choice doesn't resolve the discomfort, but it gives it shape. You stop asking why things feel different and start asking how to stay here honestly. And that might be the work we have to do in this stage of life, not preserving closeness the way it used to look, but learning how to remain open when the familiar fades. The people you love will keep changing, and so will you. The question isn't how to stop that, it's whether you can stay present long enough to recognize each other as you do. And that's where I'll stop. Again, not with an answer, just with the reminder that staying doesn't always mean standing still. Sometimes it means learning how to meet each other again.